I'm now starting the recording session. So here we go again, coming out of Summerhill. As you can see, and the technical side has changed very slightly due to the loss of our technician, but we're still all good and up and running. We've just got the dynamos running in the mice running on the dynamos in the background, keeping the electricity going. And, you know, the kids are all working hard, you know, outside, sort of generate electricity. So, but we're all right. We're getting here. So thank you all very much for coming. This is not quite, well, one of the last sessions, actually. We're going to be doing the closing session tomorrow as well. But I guess to say really that as part of the Summerhill centenary celebrations, there has been a couple of very exciting projects that have been coming up that have been, well, I guess sort of in the making or in the talking. Perhaps you could pin the video of Summerhill Festival. Yes, good point. Also another good point. So I'm not feeling like a very good host today, everybody. Very sorry about this. I'm a technician and a host all at the same time. Good, yes. So yes, we've got these couple of projects that they haven't been in the short making, really, have they? Thinking to the whole room, really. All of these the projects that have been coming up have sort of been discussions and conversations for quite a while. I think maybe I'll start off by saying that to a certain extent, what happened was that the first project we started talking about was actually the A.S.Neill Archive and Research Centre, which is a new build that we're planning to build on the site of Summerhill School that took a bit of a pause due to COVID. So it's still in the on paper phase, really. Well, I guess it's not quite that's not quite true, is it, Stephen? Because we've got lots of archive material in boxes.
Materials exist, the plant doesn't exist.
Exactly. Yeah. So we've got lots of stuff with nowhere to put it. But we'll talk. We'll talk a lot more about the archive in a few minutes. But what this sort of led to was actually, well, conversations with you quite a lot in the earlier stages when we were talking about the A.S.Neill CIC. I mean, when we were talking about the Archive and Research Centre, we were then talking about a non-profit organisation, which is called the A.S.Neill Summerhill CIC. So we're going to talk about that first, because that's a project that launched, I'm going to say in November.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm looking around.
27th of November.
27th of November it launched. And so do you want to introduce yourself, Annie?
Yeah.
And then you hold that.
Yes. Is it muted?
No, that's this one. It's okay.
Okay. So hello everybody. My name is Annie Kalinikou. I've worked in education in a few different roles. I've been a nursery and primary school teacher. I've been an outdoor environmental and sustainability education senior facilitator. I've also worked as a care worker, theatre pedagogy facilitator, and educational programs developer. To give you a bit of a background of my area of interest and focus, I've primarily focused on experiential learning, educational theory, and educational research. I focused on individuals' needs and differentiated learning and supportive relationships and sociodynamics. I've developed educational programs for a large number of schools focused on social emotional well-being as well as on curriculum subjects. And I have had the pleasure and the privilege to work with kids of all ages and with adults, as well as with children with special learning needs, dissocial and criminal behavior, emotional and mental health difficulties, as well as with looked after and maltreated children, and refugee children and children of traveller communities. My professional relationship with Summerhill started unofficially a couple of years ago, and officially, and as Henry said, a year ago. Along with James and Henry, I'm a co-founder and co-director and also general manager of the A.S.Neill Summerhill CIC, our newly established non-profit community interest company. And we're going to talk about it a bit today. So that's me. Thank you very much. Here's the microphone.
Thank you very much.
Old school, we are. This is great. This is old school.
My introduction probably won't take quite as long as Andy's. But so I'm James Coulter. I've been at Summerhill for about six or 7 years now. Prior to that, I've worked at universities as a lecturer and colleges and numerous schools. And prior to that, I was involved in kind of healthcare as well and psychiatric units. But yeah, as I say, we're kind of part of the CIC now, and it's quite an exciting project. So I suppose that's who I am.
Well, so I'm just sort of wondering now to go over some of the basic elements of the CIC. What's the best way to do this first? Should we?
I mean, I can kick off.
Do you want to kick off? Yeah. Cool.
Did we want to share the website to start with, or should we just?
No.
We don't have to, but yeah. While you're looking for that, I'll just make a start.
Yeah.
So as has been said earlier, the A.S.Neill Summerhill CIC is a non-profit organisation. And CIC, if you didn't catch it earlier, just means that we're a community interest company, which essentially means is a business model, which essentially means all our profits are reinvested into the business, and then they can go on to benefit our community, the wider community, and any of our stakeholders. So we're an independent organisation. We're not exactly linked to Summerhill, like officially, but we work very closely alongside them. And we're essentially kind of ambassadors for the philosophy of A.S.Neill and 100 years of practice. And we're kind of working to facilitate and support practice within kind of educational and societal settings to promote and prioritise happy, healthy, fulfilled childhoods, all the good things that we kind of stand for. We've got kind of many aims as part of the company, which Annie will have talk to us about or talk about soon. But the main focus really is to promote children's well-being and children's rights, and obviously the core philosophies of A.S.Neill. And we're kind of not just local, so CIC kind of makes it feel that we're very local,
community,
like a community here,
community, sort of.
but it's not. You know, we're looking to kind of implement and support projects throughout the UK and worldwide. And I think that kind of summarises kind of what we're.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the community, you know, it's sort of the to a certain extent is the education is our community, sort of global education, isn't it? Well, but I guess not just education, because actually sort of parenting practitioners and all sorts. Isn't it? So
I'm afraid I'm gonna have to mention the word, you know, the TOC.
That one. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, it's nice to have Stephen here, as Stephen was a co-creator of our TOC.
Our theory of change, or in other words, our Christmas tree.
That's not fair. That's not fair.
This is a theory of change. It looks a bit.
It doesn't look like a Christmas tree. It doesn't look like a Christmas tree. I don't understand why this has happened. I spent hours making this and making sure it didn't look like a Christmas tree. And the first thing everyone said was, "Oh, that looks like a Christmas tree."
Henry,
it's not fair.
Just I wonder how I could possibly
move that.
Yes.
You hold this one. You hold that one. You take the variety.
So for those who know a bit of the non-profit world, theory of change is basically a way of coming together and thinking, what is your vision and what is that you are trying as a non-profit to achieve in the long term? How are you thinking of how you're going to contribute in the society? So we have had long hours of contemplating and thinking.
We first had that moment where we thought, oh, this will take 1 or 2 hours, 3 or 4 hours.
Days, months.
Whether it's years even. It took us a long time. But anyway.
Yeah, so So to start with, our sort of most important goal is to be helping in restoring happiness and well-being in individuals and society through the fulfillment of childhood. And I think even in this statement alone, there's two main sort of points, two deep beliefs of ours. The one is that the priority has to be happiness and well-being. And the other one, that by healing the individual, you're healing society. And this is where it all started from for us. And then we moved on thinking, okay, so what are these essential sort of values or prerequisites for this to happen? What needs to be there so that we can restore happiness and well-being in individuals and in society? And some of these values is equality, respect, and unconditional acceptance through freedom, not license, which is the absolute heart of Summerhill School, and enhancing the autonomy and self-regulation of the child. If you haven't heard Henry saying that enough times already, free play. In every session he's mentioning it 20 times.
I'm still waiting to find the researcher out there who's managed to find out that we can actually have too much free play. But I'm looking forward. I'm sure it'll happen someday. Hopefully someone will come and say, I found it. You can have too much free play. It's bad for your health after 75 years. Anyway, carry on.
Healthy and sincere relationships and social environments, again, relates to, I think, Stephen, you mentioned it at the end of your presentation, that Neil said that he believed Summerhill is the most sincere place in the world. Relieving pressures and anxieties and expectations from childhood, another very important element in our philosophy and approach. And reaching the spectrum of educational provision with well-being based approaches. Basically, that relates a bit on if you want, removing the label of alternative education, or what does that mean, and why we are alternative, and what's the mainstream, and how we can enrich the spectrum and broaden the educational spectrum, so that we're not considered an alternative.
We struggled with that word, didn't
yes,
we?
yes. Of course, reflecting on mentalities and attitudes that restrict children's development, and respecting and promoting the voice and the rights of the child. So a few of our core values. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to read all that is coming. I just wanted to say that we then moved on in thinking, okay, so we've got our core values, so how can this change happen? And we identified these six main stakeholder groups, and we thought these are the 6 stakeholder groups that we want to focus to see this, to initiate this change. And that's just society as a whole, little communities, whether communities of education or not, of course the government, the parents and carers, the educational institutions, and the practitioners. And in that first stage, we thought, okay, so in an ideal world, in ideal circumstances, how would we like these stakeholders to be, in what situation? And then we focused on, so to get to this ideal situation, what changes need to happen? And then from there, we moved on to our non-profit outputs. Now, in this page, they look quite a lot. And don't forget, our theory of change is our long-term plan. So we haven't developed everything that is here.
Yes. I think you can pretty much type coming soon.
Coming soon to quite a few of them.
Many of those, yeah.
But here is what we have developed and already, and what is up and running. And I think, James, you can take it from here.
Yeah, so I'll just wait for Annie to get down to the bits.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's our or some of our kind of community work and the things that we're doing. So the first one, schools and institutions. And these are kind of startup professional support programs. We offer two different types. And the first one is for kind of newly established or people that are wanting to start up a school or an education institution. And it's a bespoke program for organizations in the really early stages of establishing kind of an initiative of some sort. And as I said before, it doesn't have to be kind of a school. It could be museums or colleges or anything where they want to implement more kind of child-focused kind of programs or child-focused learning. So we provide kind of training, guidance, consultancy to help the practitioners kind of develop and construct kind of a stable, sustainable educational community. And obviously one which kind of has children's rights at its centre. You know, and yeah, I think that's kind of the main one. And the second one is the ongoing professional development programme. And that's more for, just go down a bit. That's more for kind of places that are already established and just want some kind of help to start implementing new ways of education or implementing new ideas and things. So this one's kind of focused on developing and strengthening their existing practice in educating the whole child. And we help them specifically in areas, as we've said before, with children's rights, equality, free play, individuality, well-being, self-direction, democracy. There's a lot of them, healthy relationships. But ultimately, the key aim throughout it all is that the organisations can become confident and self-reflective, so they can become independent, sustainable, kind of long-term for the future. So we'll equip them with the tools and everything they need to kind of be able to go out and become their own, you know.
It's something that I think I'm sure quite a few people who work within these sort of forms of these sort of styles of education, when you're first alleviating pressures and you're first sort of creating more freedom within the school, creating more choice and having more child focus or self-directed if it is, and all of these bits and pieces, it can be a bit, people are not always that confident of exactly how to do it. And I think that's where we felt the most important thing with supporting schools starting up, but then also implementing these ideas into the schools, is that actually it's to help them gain stability around that and to be confident with the practice that they're doing. And that's really the main areas that we were thinking about as a team.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of it's the confidence to try things out. And if they don't work, you know, to be able to try something else out and not give up. You know, it's what works for that group.
And something that I always remember that Stephen kept stressing was the affirmation of all those, of the practice of all those educators out there, that they are actually doing the right thing and just encourage them and help them to do more of what they're doing rather than feeling
absolutely.
Exactly.
So in many ways, it's a very lonely existence as a pioneer, isn't it? If you're out there trying something new, or you're looking for ways to develop your own practice, you can feel as if you're working in isolation. And this community, this opportunity to be together and to come back and say, you know, I've tried this and these are the results of my actions, and to hear someone else reflecting on that with you, I think, you know, it's so very, very important. It's very easy to get very despondent otherwise, not see it through.
Cool. Shall I go back a page? Is that?
Yeah, just if you from the top. We're going not the practitioners, the consultancy, is it? All right.
Yeah, we can do. Yeah, if you want to do that next.
Because we have a bit of a surprise, don't we? So we'll leave practitioners at the end.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, yeah, so consultancy. So this is kind of a package or a program that's available for people who maybe don't need the full school startup or the other programs that we offered. And this is a bit more, not necessarily casual, but it's kind of accessible when they need it. So this is available for individuals and establishments looking for support with one or more areas of their practice. and often, well, always it will be bespoke actually. And it could include any number of kind of methods of support, including discussions or workshops, CPD, anything that's needed really to help the organisation or the individual to feel confident to try out the methods. So we also offer this service for people who are in the really early stages of starting their own project, who may need some support to develop their vision or to get the foundations or to kind of really understand where they're headed, you know, and to feel confident that they can move forward. And that could be help with kind of the business plan or potentially funding or any other aspects that we could help them with. I think that's consultancy.
Yeah, good.
Another focus of our work is the educational research. Now, we felt that, again, resonating with what Stephen was saying earlier about the importance of affirming those practices and those methodologies, research, we believe plays a key role in this. And for whoever happened to see Costas Bakirdzi's talk earlier was exactly coming as well, relating to this, how important it is sometimes to have research behind supporting and affirming the mentalities and the philosophy, that there can be freedom, there can be individual, and there should be individualized learning. We should be following our interests without expectations and pressures. So that's a major focus, another major focus of our non-profit. And we want to be not only conducting research, but also facilitating research that can happen in collaboration with our non-profit. Now, that research may happen at the actual premises of Summerhill School, because Summerhill School does receive a lot of interest for research every year. So now we as a company are now responsible in filtering these proposals and talking with the researchers that are interested in and figuring out things that can happen and how they can happen. But also, as Stephen will mention a bit later, also lots of lovely research can happen in the upcoming A.S.Neill Archive and Research Centre. I'm going to scroll down here just to show you sort of a bit of the range of topics that we would be keen to facilitate research on, because it's really actually diverse, ranging from, as we said, school archive material or material that is to do with the earlier stages of the school and A.S.Neill, to matters focused on learning and development, but also sort of a bit more open, if you want, sort of research questions coming from the fields of social anthropology. Well, anthropology in the first place, I would say, because Summerhill is a school, but is also a community, and that social angle is a very, very important to us, and very important for people to look into. So this just an indication of the topics. And I think another important thing about the research is that I think the sector of humanities and social sciences has suffered a bit from the positivism and the positivistic paradigm in this field, and of course such methodologies and such approaches can be useful. For example, when we're looking at trying to have big quantitative researches that we're trying to generalize, but when we're talking about humans and human relationships, it's important that we also look at the newer paradigms and why not paradigmatic approaches. So if you're a researcher out there hearing us and you're looking into newer paradigms in educational research, we would love to connect with you. And if you stay tuned with our website, there's some lovely projects and more networking that we're planning. I'm not going to say, not going to give out too much right now because it's a work in progress, but we are looking to more actively building and extending our research network as well.
We already have a few sort of connections with universities. The interest we're having is already very, very exciting. But it's also nice, obviously, the A.S.Neill Centre is still to come, and that will also be a big part of it as well. And I think that's something that we're very excited about, the idea that these two projects interlinked with each other will be a really lovely way of sort of assisting the externalization to a certain extent of Summerhill, to support Summerhill and what it does and support other people, sort of thing, with them.
This is Thomas. Are you taking questions?
Yeah, if you want, have we got a bit more to present first?
Yeah, just
if you don't mind, Thomas, if you don't mind just pausing for the question for a little bit, and we'll do a little bit more, and then we'll come back to you.
Gladly.
Thank you.
Okay, just to quickly skim through the communities and events. Of course, we will be organizing events and conferences and campaigns, and that's something that we want to sort of be involved, but also support. We want to accelerate the potential impact that we can have as organizations connecting with each other, and we want to promote the unity. The whole idea behind the Festival of Childhood in the first place, and we very strongly resonate with this. And in the similar mentality is our community work. We want to be in touch with people, whether they're schools, whether they're educational centers, or just eco communities, or people or groups feeling that we're sharing the same values. And I think we can now move to our sort of courses specifically for practitioners. So you don't need to be part of a group or a school that will come to work with us as a whole, but as an individual educator or social worker or psychologist, psychotherapist, or anybody who works with group of children or adults that is interested in implementing A.S.Neill's and Summerhill School's philosophy into the practice. We will be regularly offering courses for practitioners, and in fact, our first online our first online CPD course is coming on the 19th of February 2022, everybody. And this is our lovely poster, and it's going to be a 30 to 36 hours online training, and we have a special offer for everybody who is here now or watching this with the code OnlineFest15. OnlineFest15. We can put it in the chat in a bit. You can get 15% discount for the first online CPD course coming from Summerhill School. And just to quickly grab the opportunity to say a massive thank you to Jasmine and Nicholas, our volunteers, who have been absolutely amazing help. So I don't see you guys now, but lots of love, and thank you so much.
Absolutely, I'll just quickly add as well is that we formed the company at the end of last year. Already we've got a few volunteers who are working with us, Jasmine and Nicholas specifically, but actually a few other people. We've had over the past over the past year, to a certain extent, we've had lots of people who have been helping us out. And so I think from the volunteer perspective, or even from the networking perspective, if there's something in a way that you feel that you might want to bridge with us, or start in communication with us, you can come to our website and get in contact. Basically, we're sort of, because we're in the earlier stages, we are developing courses, we're doing all these bits and pieces. But the plan is, you know, we've got lots of lovely plans for the future, and we'd like to sort of reach out and be building bridges with as many people as possible, sort of thing, really.
Yes.
So I think to add that was
Yes,
all it was,
of
really.
course.
So our website, www.A.S.Neill Summerhill CIC.co.uk, and you can find out lots of more information and all sorts of other bits there as well. Cool. So is there anything else? Should we have a few questions before moving on? Because obviously we'll talk about the archive in a few minutes as well, in more detail about the archive, the A.S.Neill Archive and Research Centre.
Should I stop sharing?
Yeah, maybe stop sharing now. Yeah, good idea. And then and we can have some questions if anybody has anything they'd like to add or anything like that. Thomas, you had a question. Would you like to ask first?
Yes, real quick. And it is about what you were sharing. The list of 6 classes of stakeholders at the top of your Christmas tree. Apologies for calling it that, Henry.
Yeah, thanks, Thomas. I've been working hard. I was kind of hoping that I'd get a friend who would say, it doesn't look like a Christmas tree.
Well,
I was really hoping I would get one, but it's all right, Thomas. You know, it's okay.
To further the joke, it's laden with gifts. How's that?
Okay, all right, thanks,
So
Thomas.
the question is, and this says something about me. As soon as I saw the list of stakeholders, the classes of stakeholders, I immediately started looking for where are the young people? Where are the young people? Where are the ones who are inside or outside? And I was surprised to see your stakeholders does not include the young people who are the ones who probably are the most keen stakeholders involved.
It's interesting. That's
So
do you want to say something about that? It did come to us.
We had it there.
Yeah, we
had it there as a sort of a 7th stakeholder group. But when we were sort of, we can put our TOC online so you can actually kind of read in a bit more detail what is written, because actually in these areas we were thinking of what needs to happen so that children have a better childhood. So in fact, if you read those writings inside these boxes, it was all of it was about the child. And so when looking, we're thinking, okay, so that doesn't make sense, because to set our first and foremost and alone your stakeholder is the child. And
but everything
I understand the logic, but it's not really the definition of stakeholder then at that point.
Possibly then it was to do. I see your point. You're right. As a group of
the person who's being affected by it. I mean, that was exactly.
Who do we need to work with so that children, because the mentality that we're having is that children need to be allowed to grow in freedom.
I understand.
And to be allowed, we need to work with those who are restricting the freedom.
I understand the logic. However, I think you're missing out greatly by not seeing I guess the word is agency of the young people to affect the change for themselves.
But it's interesting. It'd be interesting for you to read through the things, because you'll find that there's quite a lot of things that are referencing with that as well. So it's interesting. It's all in there, but I know what you mean. I think that when you've got those 6 things along the top, I can understand why the first thing you think is why are kids not within that? So especially when all of the things at the top basically for them sort of thing. So
but in the mentality, in our approach, the first and foremost is children's voice and children's rights.
It feels very important. So thank you for everything you're doing. And this feels like a moonshot level of significance on what you've accomplished and where you're going. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Shelley,
Shelley, yes. Sorry for the late point, but it's the non-Christmas tree. Interesting that 2.7 state. I like the non-Christmas tree. States reflecting on mentalities that restrict children's development rather than children's happiness and well-being as per the overall aim. Interesting that third and stage reflecting on the mentalities that restrict.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's the systems that the children are in. You know, they can't break free of the school system on their own. You know, so you've got to go from the inside out. You know, to get that effect.
Yeah. And I think that when also thinking about mentalities is that we know a lot that throughout society, obviously there's many of us who are who have got real strong ideas of how things should be, have a lot of experience with things like that as well. But there's a lot of people out there who don't really know, and are finding it very, very difficult to work under the sort of the societal kind of imposed sort of mentalities of the ways things should be as well, sort of thing. Which is, I think that's also another angle to it. Zoe, you got your hand up.
Yeah, was this still a question about the stakeholders?
No, we've moved on, Zoe.
Okay, I had to go out the door. Don't worry.
No, it's all right. Shelley.
Yeah, hi, sorry. I've got a stinking cold, so I'm actually sitting in my bed, so I don't want to turn my camera on.
Oh, bless
sorry
you.
for being antisocial, but
No, yeah, that's not.
yeah, you really don't need to see my pink fluffy gym jams, to be honest. Oh, excuse me.
You're right.
My point was really about the focus at the top of the Christmas tree, or nearly the top, on children's development. Given that the overall aim of the project is about happiness and well-being. And those are two different things. So the development angle being very much a psychological construct, and happiness and well-being very much coming from a child-centered, child-focused, child's rights perspective. So I just wondered why you chosen to put that in those terms on the sort of lower branches. Because children's development is only one aspect of their experience, and it's also development is a very sort of adult judgmental term, or can be, and obviously well-being and happiness are very much more can be seen from a child's perspective. So yeah, I was just interested in that shift of focus from the top to the sort of top third of the Christmas tree, but I may have misunderstood what that was about. So
I don't know necessarily. No, do you want to go?
I'm happy to comment on
Yeah.
this. I think, I mean, again, resonating with the other talk happened this morning. The concept of development can be seen or interpreted as a sort of a change or a transition, and or the same of learning. So it doesn't necessarily mean development towards a predetermined from the adult's target, but rather a sort of a journey that of enrichment and of change that naturally happens to all humans. So we do and feel very strongly that happiness and well-being is absolutely necessary for a healthy development. So it's not I suppose by not having happiness and well-being, you can't have a healthy development. But when looking to sort of the educational, not only educational work nowadays, when you're thinking of development, you're thinking of happiness and well-being, but you're also thinking of nurture and sort of physical well-being as well, and all sorts of other angles that all together promote the healthy development. So it wasn't, I don't think it's to necessarily sort of I don't know if it is not to separate, but quite the opposite, sort of thinking that happiness and well-being is an inextricable part, absolute prerequisite for healthy development. So I don't know if that answers the question, and or if anybody.
No, I think you're there. I mean, you've been through that process. But I think a very valid point. I think these points are really exciting. That somebody's looking at these things afresh.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you work with something
for a long time, you see what you see. Don't you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to revisit is healthy. Yeah.
But I think also what's interesting, because when you have the first the theory of change is something that we're obviously it's for the company itself, but it's also we put forward to apply for grants and bits and pieces like that. So getting people's take on bits and pieces like that is also very useful and interesting as well.
Yeah.
So
something from Zoe. Sorry.
I'm just going to have to go because I've got to do COVID testing.
Yes, of course, James. Yeah, okay.
So I've got to go.
So
it's nice seeing you all, and I'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, James. Thank you. Okay, good. So
Zoe.
No,
Zoe, go on.
I was only answering Thomas. Because I missed the bit of that conversation. I was just answering my view on what Thomas was saying about stakeholders, but it's nothing to do with you. It's just my own view as an individual, as I'm not really involved in the CIC. So it was just
okay, fine.
Personal thoughts on it. That's all.
Okay, good. All right then. Cool. Derry, you've got your hand up.
Oh, shut up. Oh, yeah, blah, 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 fucking, pick it. Sorry, that's Irish expletives, because I always forget the mute button.
How long were you talking before you unmuted?
About an hour and a half, Henry, you know me well. Usually people see me coming and get the mute button on quickly. I just wanted to say I apologise for putting a plug for my book in the chat, but I've for a long time, I hope you'll collect together the experiences of people who seriously tried to implement the whole Summerhill package, if you like, and go further in some ways with self-directed learning in state schools with the full democratic package, respect for rights, etc., because for a long time I really thought I was the only one. And then I wrote the book, and since the book, I've had requests from teacher training setups all around the world. I just jotted down Turkey, twice in Canada, Finland, Bulgaria, a group in France, a group in Germany. The demand, it's like the education field. 50% of English teachers want to get out of the state school system because they're so depressed by it. The demand for the kind of thing you're offering is absolutely enormous. So my hope is that you'll bring together people like me who think we're completely isolated but discover that we aren't. That there are others trying to do it here, there and everywhere. It needs pulling together. It could become quite a powerful package. But as I say, I'm already experiencing, I'm 82 next birthday, and I, in a way, I just like to go and grow roses. But the demand for these ideas and for some evidence, this is where the research comes in, that they really are possible to implement, even in small ways, almost anywhere, once you decide to try. I hope you're going to do that. Bring people's experience together and spread it around.
Absolutely. Well, especially as Annie was mentioning in the beginning part. Absolutely, yeah. At the beginning part, working with the community, building the network or supporting the network. There's lots of wonderful things happening out there already. There's so much going on, and to a certain extent, in a similar kind of way of what my original plan for the Summerhill Festival was, that it is about childhood and creating unity around, and to try and create as much sort of networking and bridging. And this is that we've already got some very exciting ideas, which hopefully over the next year or so we'll start to be able to get implementing of ways of sort of building networks and building communities and helping to support exactly what you're saying, Derry, exactly that reason. Because you, to a certain extent, you and even us will only have the capacity that we have to be able to support as much as we're able to support. So to build bigger networks and to get everyone all interlinked is exactly the angles that we're coming from with it as well. Yeah, but it's very, very exciting, Darren. I think especially with you, we'll definitely be in contact very soon. I would love to speak to you more as well, and just to start to get some heads together to start thinking about it in a broader perspective, sort of thing.
Well, there's the international networking potential as well, as these ideas are beginning to flourish. And even in unexpected countries, like we met the people from Indonesia this morning, they know so much. And what they're trying to do, 101 schools for the opening of the project, very much self-directed learning in a democratic and human rights respecting context. And they've got 500,000 schools in Indonesia. It's unbelievable. And yet it's not a country we think of as a main player in democratic education, but it's going to be, there's no doubt about it, as well as the well-established ones like Finland and Israel.
Yeah, amazing, absolutely. Because I heard that there was movement forward. If I remember correctly, it was actually in APDEC in Australia. The team from Indonesia were talking about possible conversations where change may come. So it's lovely to hear. I wasn't actually at the talk. It's lovely to hear that is moving forward.
Well, and they're making links with like Colombia, their Escuela Nueva movement in Colombia, where Vicky Colbert, as Deputy Education Minister, has got this kind of thinking at work in thousands of small rural schools in Colombia. And so there's some international networking to be done as well. And I think the name of Summerhill, everybody knows what Summerhill stands for. And you hear the word wherever you go around the world. Summerhill is ideally placed to draw all these international threads together, I think.
Yeah.
Very affirming.
Amazing, Darren.
Thanks,
Thank you
Darren.
very much. Thank you so much, Darren. Thank you. Yeah, your support is eternally. I think going all the way back, you've been a backbone support to us for 20, 30 years. How long now, Zoe? I think we've had Darius.
Well, I think my first visit was 1997, where Michael Newman tried to persuade me to include Summerhill in the Crick report on models of citizenship education, and to my shame, I didn't. Because I thought it might be pushing the boundaries a bit too far for what we were trying to achieve at the time. But then, 1999, I was invited by Zoe to give the speech at IDEC after you'd had that bloody awful inspection. And I think that's when my 100% commitment was sort of reinforced. Though, frankly, all the work I did in schools in the 70s and 80s was totally inspired by Summerhill. It's a long story and I won't tell it, but I remember the day when, with my kids in my Land Rover, we drove past the entrance to Summerhill when I just started working as a teacher, and we were too shy to come in. The feeling of holiness and sacredness about the place.
Bless you.
We didn't dare to come through the gate.
Bless you, Darren. Bless you.
I don't feel that way anymore, I must say. As you know, my camper van is more or less permanently parked by the music room.
Derry, there's always that space. It's just empty waiting for you all the time. You know that. Anytime, Derry.
Beautiful.
Lovely. Lots of love to you, Derry. Thank you so much. But absolutely, I think that's something that we're very excited about this project to a certain extent, is that, the more conversations we're having with people, the more exciting it's becoming, and the more people are really relishing in the idea that this is all coming about, especially with the CIC. But I think that that's a nice opportunity now to move on to the Archive and Research Centre, because that's, it has been, well, I say a bit, it sort of started as a bit of a dream. I think, Zoe, you were the first one who sort of, up in your attic. I think we should do something with these boxes. Zoe, if you want to say anything about it.
I'll move on the other side.
Do you want to move on the other side? Yeah, sure.
No.
Sure, you come in here. So you come over here, Stephen. You come over here a little bit more. Right, now then, we're just going to share the screen.
So don't go. It's not going to be that bad.
Zoe, do you want to just sort of just give us a bit of an introduction of you know, maybe where the first thoughts came about? And
Well, I can't remember when the first thoughts came about, but I think the important thing is that they did, and we had lots of very exciting ideas about the archive. And I think in the early days, perhaps we maybe pitched a little high.
Yeah.
We had dreams of this wonderful, you know, beautiful building in the corner of Summerhill with a huge conference centre and so on and so forth.
what was that not realistic? Sorry.
Well, I think we've had to modify our ideas. And I think partly that has been due to the COVID thing as well, but also just reality started to hit. And, you know, we're still aiming. The main purpose of this building is to create a very professional archive, and we're loosely using the Benjamin Britten archive in Aldborough, which is just down the road from us, as a model, I would say. Would that be right, Stephen?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got really nice links with the Red House and the archivist there, and yeah, just as a sounding board in many ways. Yeah.
Yeah, we've looked at what they've got, and we've and you know, there are a lot. If you're not into archive, which I wasn't, but I'm a bit more into now, you have to have a floating room. You don't really want to have electrical machines putting in dry air and all that sort of thing, because they can be dangerous. So you want to create these special floating rooms. All is very expensive. You need to have those big towers where you store papers and they can roll up so that you've got plenty of room to keep things. That's all very expensive, but it's doable. And that's really what our kind of core for the archive wants to be. We want this information that we have about Summerhill to be here in the next 100 years, so that if Summerhill meets with some kind of tragedy and is not able to celebrate its 200th birthday, at least the Summerhill archive will be able to. And it will be available for students and interested persons across the world. But as well as that, we'd like it to be a nice building, and we'd like to have a conference centre in it, which would take some pressure off the visitors' days at school. It would give us an extra space that we could have, that the CIC can do things, that we can do things. And it's just going to be lovely, and we're all terribly excited about it. But we haven't yet put in for planning permission, because when you put in for planning permission, you have a sort of 3-year window in which you need to start. And of course, as soon as COVID came along, we were worried, and quite rightly so, because if we put in for our planning permission a year ago, of course, we'd had a whole year on stop because of COVID. And so now we would only have 2 years left. So we will be applying very shortly when we get our breath back and we get our school up and running again after the COVID. And hopefully then, my husband is a farmer. He's an amazing man, and he does fantastic work and building. And if anybody can get this building up, it's him. So he has been given the mission, build the archive, and I believe he will get it done.
Yeah.
So that's all I have to say about it. Very exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
And at that point, well, presentation finished. Thank you very much, Zoe. What can I say? Brilliant. You know, as ever, Zoe, you've encapsulated the excitement of it all. Yeah. I think, you know, one of the key points that Zoe's just mentioned is this whole idea of, do I use the word intrusion? You know, Summerhill is a living community. And whilst we welcome our visitors, and it's been a bit difficult over the last COVID times, as we know, but we welcome people under the normality of daily living. But there is that bit that says, you know, if we want to build something as a centre, as available to a wider audience, then the positioning of this centre is really significant. And, you know, whilst we haven't put it in terms of planning as in exactly where it'll be, you know, the idea that it will be on the Summerhill site, but not in the middle of our living space. Yeah. So it will be available to the world, but not to the extent that it will make Summerhill that goldfish bowl that it was certainly at one stage in its past, where people, you know, by coach load on a Saturday afternoon would just arrive en masse. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, back to my slides. You'll excuse me on this, really. But I mean, I think I'm going to get this reputation of being incredibly didactic, and anytime that Stephen speaks, he's got to have a set of slides in front of him. But this just keeps the structure together. If you excuse the slides, they're there as prompts to me rather than necessities for you. But so the whole idea. Yep, I've got my sorry.
And if you make, I think this is the screen that is shared. So if you make this full screen on that.
On this side.
Screen.
There we go. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah,
Here we go. Can everybody see the slides all right there?
Zoe, can you see slides?
Yeah.
You can.
You can see slides.
That's lovely.
Cool. Okay.
So the whole idea behind the Summerhill Archive, historically there's been a lot of resources and source materials around the building. Zoe still naturally has that balance of archive between what is Summerhill and what is family. And copious books have been written. We've got those 2 lovely volumes by Kroll. We've got Albert Lamb's resources and source materials that he's used when he's written as well. There's loads of stuff out there, and what we came to terms with is the fact that, we don't really know what is out in the big world. We know what exists within our setting. We have some understanding of source materials from people who have written about the school, Kroll, Lamb, and others. But we've got a lot of almost ephemera around as well. Little notes, post-its, and all these bits which outside of the archive probably make very little sense, but put into the archive, and the links you can make between the pieces of material are really significant. When we talk about Summerhill Archive, of course, we're not just talking, there's a nice picture there of the building, as in where we live, where we work. But the Summerhill history, the Summerhill story, as some of you may have tuned into, and I did my little presentation about the biography of Neil, goes back way beyond what was happening in this space. This is 1927 onwards. There's a whole history of Summerhill dating back to 1921 to 27 that we need to ensure that any materials around are kept safe. We've got an amazing collection of photographs going back to, I think our earliest ones are mainly about 1934, which tell quite a bit of the early story of Summerhill. Some of you may have tuned in when listened to the other afternoon when I was talking about a certain photograph about the Spanish Civil War and the van arriving at Summerhill. There's a lovely little volume of photographs which just summarize 1938, the whole year of 1938 in about 40 photographs. All these things are so precious, and at the moment they are stored securely, but they're quite random. And the intent certainly is to make these source materials eventually online, but to begin with, to be available and collated in the physical form. Henry and I have done a little bit of training in this. This is new ground for both of us in many ways, but what we have learned from the professionals we've worked with about archiving is that you never throw away or rid yourself of the paper copy. Yes, you put stuff online, you store it appropriately through technology, but you always hold on to original sources, and you don't start taking sources to pieces. That photograph album has got of 1938. It's got some beautiful photographs. And you go, oh, it's a lovely one of Neil. We'll pull that one out and stick that one somewhere else, and you've destroyed the whole story of that little album. So we're learning as we go along, but we're up for this. Should we just rattle through some of these slides? Let's take it through. So
let's do.
Hit the button, Henry, as they say.
Hit the button.
So, if we just pause for this one for a moment. What I think we've become as a group is, dare I use the word, more professional, but we've become more aware of the fact that what we're trying to promote is really very exciting. And so that we're in the age of the logo very much at Summerhill. We've got logos for all these ventures that we're taking part in. We want it to be a very visual thing. So there's one there, as it says, for the centre. The centre is yet to be built, but we're talking about the centre already. We're resourcing our centre and getting our archive materials together. So it needs to be out there, because ideally what we're going to do this afternoon is look at our own source materials that we have at home in our various places. Saying, you know, have I got anything at home that could be added to the archive materials that Summerhill is collating?
I think that was a big part of
Very much
a very
so.
big part
Yeah.
of when we were thinking about the archive. You know, Mum has amazing collection of bits and pieces, and it's phenomenal how quickly you suddenly get someone down the road who is an ex-pupil who suddenly says, actually, I've got this article. Someone actually rang me up from Leiston and sort of said, I've got an article from the 1960s or something, which is one of the ones about, would you like it?
Yeah.
So it's and I was, of course I like, you know, run down there.
Too right.
And things like that. When you have you know, obviously people will think about Summerhill to bring things like that, but when you actually have an archive, I think that
It's
also
got a home, isn't it?
it becomes a real base for it. And I think that lots of people then who have that historical or the lovely connection of whatever part of their life.
It's done very professionally that way, isn't it? You know, I think about things that I value at home. It's mainly sort of family history stuff, but you know, I'm loath to pass that on to just anybody. You know, when that eventually gets handed on, hopefully onto one of my nephews, you know, it'll be handed on to the one who really wants to keep it. And I think, you know, the same applies for Summerhill materials here. You know, if you've got things at home and they've been part of your living and part of your life's experience, you are going to want to pass those on to somewhere where it's going to be cared for and properly cared for. Yeah.
Could I show you a few things?
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, 1 second. I can stop sharing for a second. Yes, where are
Is that
you?
the lovely Derry?
We've got a few.
Can you see this?
Go, Derry.
Oh, Freedom School wins reprieve. Blunkett's U-turn saves Summerhill. Radical boarding school escapes closure threat. Court deal saves Freedom School from closure. Summerhill School beats closure after deal with Blunkett. And there's a lovely picture of Zoe. Official red tape hinders school. Summerhill accuses inspectors of bias. I don't know. I can't see whether you can see it. But
Yes, we can.
You must know. And here's a lovely one. In the record of inspection evidence, all these bloody inspectors, including the one who couldn't spell. I'm really looking forward to putting that one into the archive.
We'll frame that one, Derry.
This box.
It's lovely, Derry, that you know that you've cared for and nurtured all those documents and sources over the years. And yes, of course, you know, our cry is, of course, we would love to house those eventually.
Yeah.
Of course, we
The
would.
trouble is, you get attached to them, you know.
Absolutely.
And I don't know. You'll probably have to come down here with a pair of handcuffs or something and steal them.
Nah. We would love you in your great generosity when it's the right time.
Yeah.
To hand them over, knowing that they will be cared for and respected
In the right place, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, turning all this on its head, there's also, you know, we have contacts from time to time where people have emailed and messaged the school and said, you know, I've got some sources. You know, my great granny, or my granny, probably rather than great granny, came to the school. We've got her holiday snaps of when she went to Barbados. You know, then you have to do that bit that says, well, where does the archive end? Yes, that lady had a connection with Summerhill, but we're not interested in Barbados. Yeah, and it's that bit that says, you know, we have to be quite strong as an organisation as well here, of being selective about what we are prepared to house. Otherwise, we could get some of these boxes of goodies, which obviously mean an awful lot to them, but their relevance to Summerhill and its story could be quite tentative.
Well, that's, you know, the one of the other things that we're thinking quite strongly about the archive is to have the library, which would be the connection to the part of it where you're sort of then bringing in all of the other sort of books and writings and research and bits and pieces that other people have done, not necessarily to become part of the archive, but to be a part of the library of the archive sort of thing. And there's lovely ideas about things like that as well. So it's very exciting.
It is, and trying then to predict the space that quantity of materials would take. what you don't want to do is create a building and then find the building almost runs out of space within the first year of its creating.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
It's unknown, isn't it? It's unknown what is out there. And what we're saying in our inimitable way is, if there are things out there that you treasure and you feel confident that they will be handed on to an organisation, or back home even, to its roots, then we would love to hear from you. We'd love to know what the materials are.
Yeah. And I think also adding as well as that, which we didn't mention at the beginning, is that the plan for this is not necessarily to just be a historical archive. It will be an ongoing archive of the Summerhill community as it is today and tomorrow and for the years to come. And that's something I think from the research perspective, there's also lots of potential.
Absolutely.
Very interesting situations with that as well, of what potentially, what part it could play in supporting, well, the world of these sort of styles of education and implementing these sort of values within education, really.
Okay, a few more prompts just so we can rattle through. I'm just aware of time. So, having said it's not just about this building and this place, it is about this building and this place as well. And it's about the grounds. It's about the community in which Summerhill is set, local interest, local news about Summerhill. We always, I joke with friends when I talk about working at Summerhill and say, if I was to say to people, where is Summerhill School in Leiston, they'd say, I'm not really sure. Is it behind that brick wall? If I was to say internationally, where is Summerhill, people would say to me, it's in Leiston, it's in Suffolk, it's in the UK. They would be much more aware of its physical importance. But, locally, of course, there will be extracts in local news about Summerhill that we need to tap into. And we have some really super photographs. I mentioned just now about, some of our earliest photographs going back to 1934. And this is where, I sit often with Zoe and we do a little bit of history work together, a bit of research together. I'm the great scribe, but Zoe is the fond of all knowledge. I know that, is Harry Herring there, the art teacher on the left-hand side, but I'd never worked with Harry Herring. I was never taught by Harry Herring. I wasn't in a group with Harry Herring, but I sit next to a person who's done all that, and more, and so then Zoe says, and that person in the front row is so-and-so, and they're related to this person, and they were at the school. It's having that opportunity, bless her, with Zoe.
Actually, Stephen, it's Irene at the front, so.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
All right. Thank you very much, Zoe. Stop there, Zoe.
Lovely pictures, aren't they?
No, don't get me started.
No, exactly. We have the most entertaining times sitting together and going through these things, but it's so important. That we can tell this history authentically. Rather than somebody making a guess or a stab at what was this scene about.
Stephen, it puts a bit of pressure on me. I have to keep working on my tumours because I get a bit frightened when I think, God, I'm the only one who knows all this.
But you share it, don't you? That's the lovely thing.
I do try.
Absolutely.
We flick on him.
Yeah.
So lots of photographs, lots of bits of documentation in terms of this one's to do with an anniversary. We're talking about the 50th anniversary. When Zoe finds these things in the loft, or she finds around, she often takes photographs of them, sends them across to me, and with enough little measure, stick it up your archive. And that's exactly what I do. I paste it somewhere, and I know that in future I need to come back to that. And are there other source materials available that relate to that? Are there photographs that we can collate with that without destroying the authenticity of the origins of the?
How beautiful is that? There was a conversation. So one of the earlier sessions we had during this festival, Jakob was there. We were talking about what's going to be the 100th, what we're going to celebrate for the 200th birthday of Summerhill. And here we're looking at something which is of the 50th anniversary. And you can imagine them all sitting there during the 50th anniversary of Summerhill saying, how would we celebrate the 100th birthday of Summerhill?
Exactly.
You know, that's sweet, isn't it? And here we are at the 100th birthday. We need to make sure we take some photographs of you know, obviously the footage of this festival and all of the other lovely
which will go into the archive.
Which will go into the archive. And people at the 200th birthday will go, I wonder what happened all the way back then at the 100th birthday.
For those funny old things, yeah.
Yeah, lovely, isn't it?
So alongside that, what we are blessed with, fortunately, and we have those on site are, is it going to be 40?
What's that?
The date. Is it going on? Next slide.
Oh, the next slide, sorry, yeah.
Are lots of magazines and journals associated with the school specifically and with the trust. And that's something, you know, I'm going to do a little plug here for the trust because with my trustee's hat on, you know, the Summerhill Trust alongside Summerhill CIC, all working in the same direction, all working together and understanding what its role is within this grouping. But the whole idea, you know, of the trust is to promote Summerhill and its values, and also to fundraise, to put together funding to support students in their learning at Summerhill. To create bursaries, you know, and it's not my place here to talk about how many bursaries we give out and how much money we've got. You know, it ain't hundreds of thousands, but money that we get in goes towards those situations where a student has started their journey with us, and we desperately want to be able to support the families for those journeys to continue. But you know, it's something we don't hear an awful lot about the trust. Perhaps another year I'll do a little slideshow on trust as well.
Would I be right in thinking that 1971, 50 years of Summerhill?
50. My maths isn't good, Derry, but it's about right. I think. I think you're very much there. Yeah.
I just finished my first 2 years of introducing Summerhill to a state secondary modern school in Aylesbury in 1971.
There you go.
Amazing.
This is like memory lane. This after this is really good. This is good
really
for us.
Nice.
Healthy for us.
Sweet. Yeah, really.
You know, Derry, at some stage we need to sit together, and I need to hear your story. We need to get that recorded. You know, your connections with the school. Be lovely to do.
There's so many, exactly, isn't there? Yeah.
I get a bit hung up on the inspection and all these boxes of stuff from the inspection. But it's lovely to see all this earlier material. Yeah.
It's you know, we're so privileged to have it. It must be well looked after for the future. You know, we must know what we've got. Yeah.
Going back to that.
Sorry,
guys. Yeah, Zoe, go on.
I was just going to say to Derry, well, and to everybody really, you may not know it, but my office at school, you actually have to, you can hardly get in there because there's the boxes all over the floor of all the original information we got for the court case, which includes many, many letters from parents and from previous pupils and so on and so forth. So, you know, those things are, they're sitting in the middle of my office.
Zoe, did Mark Stevens, junior solicitor, I forget her name, she was brilliant, working through the case. I still get people come to see me to look at this archive material from the case, but presumably Mark Stevens has got it all. Is he going to put it into the archive, or is he going to hang on to it?
It's all in the boxes that are in my office.
We picked it all up already, Derry. I went up to London in a big van. And I was thinking wasn't quite sure how much space I was going to need, but we filled the van up. I was surprised that they managed to get that much paperwork. But we've got a lot. Some amazing material from the archive, from the court case. Yeah.
Thanks. And as Henry so rightly said, you know, we talk archive. We tend to think about the historic, and what we must do is remember that, you know, every moment of Summerhill's living becomes history very quickly. This is a lovely sketch one of our students has left this year, did of my room. Yeah, okay, you know, in many ways it's nothing, and in many ways it's everything. It says something about Summerhill 2021. Yeah, so we must be very aware of, you know, of the source materials we have available to us now, and be selective. You know, we're not going to be able to keep everything, but we are selective of what we have got.
I'm going to have to leave, Henry. I'm sorry to leave this meeting because I love talking about the archive, but I've got a Summerhill meeting to attend. I need to
Really?
go to school.
You mean the real thing?
I dare not.
You got a
miss-
job to do, Zoe. You got a
I've
job
got
to
a
do,
job to
Zoe.
do. So,
Golly,
bye, everybody. Thank you, everybody who's turned up to this.
What a pathetic excuse.
Is that a bad excuse?
Take care.
Lots of love, Zoe. Thanks,
Bye.
Mum.
Take care, lovely.
See you in a bit.
And you know, there's Kata in there.
There is Kata
You
in
know,
there, yeah.
reminder that of the events that we've held fairly recently over the last few years, you know, the Freedom to Learn Forum, the Summerhill experience, and all the materials that we've had from those events, you know, need to find their way into the archive. We're very lucky. I mean, people are very good these days, aren't they, of taking photographs on their phones. The danger is, of course, when you take it on your phone, that it goes no further. You know, we've got lots of prints of these pictures. We need to continue to remind ourselves that, yeah, okay, we might put it onto a stick, but it was good to have the real thing as well. It's good to have the paper copy, the photo copy of it. Yeah. A nice little glimpse at newspaper. I mentioned newspaper as in local newspapers. Michael, Derek mentioned Michael Newman already. I mean, Michael, bless him, you know, a great saint, great worker for Summerhill, continues to be. But there's some lovely collated folders where Michael began to put newspaper cuttings and things into folders, which has certainly helped my job of going through them and seeing what we have got. But just a reminder, you know, this is the family in several different guises. Alongside the history of Summerhill, we cannot forget, we cannot take out the importance of the individuals who have continued the traditions of our founder. So there will be materials about Ina in the archive. There'll be materials about these lovely people here as well. What we've tried to do recently, and again, we've had opportunity because of the events we've held in school, is to make larger copies of what often are very, very small photographs, certainly back to the 1930s, you know, almost, you know, not microscopic, but tiny, you know, and you can just about see what's going on, you know, to expand those, to get those into an A4, A3 size, you really notice the detail. You really get excited by what's happening, not only in the foreground, but the background. All the little incidentals are happening either side of the event. And, you know, for the Freedom to Learn, for the Summerhill experience, for our 100th day, to have those available, to talk them through with the present Summerhill community. You know, the kids come along and they want to know who these people are naturally, their predecessors in this place. And then they begin to notice, oh, isn't that the Sand building? And then you tell the story of Mrs. Lynn's and A.S.Neill building the SAN in 1937, to have that knowledge, and not only just have the knowledge that it happened through Neil's books, but photographs to support that evidence. Yeah, that lovely collating, that bringing together. And so he talked about being visionary. Yeah, I mean, you know, when we first started talking about what would we ideally like, I don't think we were wrong to do blue sky thinking. It's lovely to actually look at what, you know, what would we really like on that space? What sort of building would we love to have? What, you know, do we want a shut off space, which is, you know, so he said, you know, a floating floor and all the temperatures to be right for those doctors. Of course, that must be right. But then we said, but then we'd like a reading room, and we'd like a base to have a little kitchen area. And all these things are fairly visionary and blue sky, but it's right that you go through those stages. And then you begin to look at the reality of, well, so how much money have we got? You know, we've got enough space up there to do it well, but how much money have we got to fund this and make a good job of it? What are the priorities here? What are we really about? Are we just about storage? Are we about accessibility of these resources, these source materials? You know, and we're certainly about both. We want them to be carefully stored and available. I think that's my bit, Henry, really. Hope I've got sounded vaguely excited by this.
You've nailed it. You've nailed
I'll just show one more little document, just talk about association, where we are on screen here.
Let me just 1 second, if I
Just stick something up on the screen.
Let's see if we can do this. Wait a minute, everybody. So we just speak of view. Are you seeing us pinned at the moment, everybody?
into the floor.
Are you seeing us in
Yeah,
full
highlighted,
screen?
Henry.
Yes.
Are we
Or
there?
spotlighted or whatever it's called.
Cool.
Just ask Henry, just to put that towards the camera for a moment. Something which arrived in school a little while ago.
You see it all right?
A lovely little booklet which talks about the drawings of the children, students of Summerhill. And, you know, it meant something to me in terms of, I could see the name Neil on there, and I could see a bit about, and these children had put their pictures together, and there'd been an exhibition. And then I read on, it said about an exhibition in Bond Street in London in 1944. And I go to Neil's books, as is my way, and I look at Hearts Not Heads in the School, page 70, and there it is. Summerhill Art Exhibition at the Arcade Gallery, Bond Street. An exhibition that showed that free children proved me wrong when I say that an unrepressed society might lessen artistic expression. The enthusiasm that the display aroused among artistic people was great. And the fact that the school had a brilliant art teacher in Robert W. Bond did not account for that enthusiasm. You know, I've got a whole new line of investigation now ahead of me. One piece of material arrives at school. I look for the context in Neil's writings, and excitement builds.
Excitement builds. Well, I've definitely found that over the past sort of few years, I think I keep doing it all the time now. There's all these little things, you see something and oh look, it just the whole I think it sort of happened. I know that you've had deep love for history for many years, but for me it's been growing so much in me, the building of those links and the way that sort of happens.
It's very important.
It's really lovely. Yeah, brilliant.
Could I jump in, Henry, quickly?
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yeah, we've got just a minute left. I think. I don't know if we've got someone after us. Kata, have we got someone after us?
Nope.
We don't. Okay, so we can have a little bit of extra time. Then go on, Derry.
Well, I don't want to be rude, and I feel 100% supportive of everything you're proposing, but I wonder if you're being blue skies enough. When I think of this program in Indonesia, where tens of millions of dollars are going to be spent developing a program that in many ways owes its existence to Summerhill, and the work that's gone on at Columbia with millions and millions spent on it.
Yeah.
Surely an international Summerhill Centre is not unreasonable to expect donations of hundreds of thousands from these various sources.
Yeah.
To think of it as an international centre, because its place in education internationally has been so enormous. You know, as I say, I wonder if you're being blue skies enough. I can sort of think of there's been so much development in the way museums and centres like this are set out these days. The potential seems to be enormous. Don't, for God's sake, have it on the Summerhill site, because in my mind I can see coachloads arriving every day from Indonesia and Colombia. Maybe you need to be like the Catholics at Knock. You'll need your own special airport in order for people to be able to fly into without blocking Heathrow.
That's a lovely, lovely, exciting idea. I 100% on that. We've got to think big. I think that what we have learned, though, rather sadly, and this is my understanding of this, possibly not necessarily groups, but they may be with me on this. As soon as you start asking or suggesting people might like to fund, there's all the complications that go with it. Yeah, we'll give you the money, but in doing that, we want to know that you're going to do this, this, and this, and almost the ownership, which must stay with Summerhill, certainly for the foreseeable future.
That's why you need to get it from several sources and not just one. So you're not in the pocket.
We looked a lot. It's absolutely right in what you're saying, Darren. We looked at all sorts of possibilities, and something like that. You're absolutely right. It might be that something like that would be very, very interested in donating money to support the A.S.Neill Centre and something like that. I mean,
sorry, I just need to say, because I'm surprised it hasn't been mentioned. There is a crowdfunding for happening for the A.S.Neill Centre.
Yeah,
And,
there is. Yeah.
It started just before the pandemic, and but literally like a couple of weeks before everything closed, and it was. And we launched it, and it went out, and it had a bit of enthusiasm in the beginning, but then the pandemic came, and just everything went sort of completely quiet, and the whole world was focused into how we're gonna overcome this. And we also felt at the time like, we're like, okay, is it the right time now to be promoting when everybody is on survival mode?
Yeah,
So,
okay. But I'm thinking of the very, sorry.
No, go on, Derek, go on.
Some of the very rich people who failed at school, people like Gates who walked out of education. Ricardo Semler couldn't stand his schooling. Richard Branson couldn't stand his schooling. These people have very large sums of money. And to tap Gates and Branson and Semler for $1 million apiece, it would be peanuts to them, but they might just catch their imagination. The idea of a kind of school that stands for everything that wasn't what they hated at their school.
Yes, no, I think very, really valid stuff there. I really do. Really believe us in terms of we'll make it. Yeah, we would love to receive that sort of quantity of money.
Yeah, it's absolutely. It's just sort of trying to find to make those connections and to do that,
and the investment of time that it takes. My role in this, at the moment, I'm history teacher. The parameters get stretched a little bit. I become archivist, and then alongside enthusiast. It's that bit that says, but it's really another job to fundraise for this. Somebody's going to put their hand up now and say, "I'll fundraise for you. I'll get you the millions." I say, "Yeah, go on then. Thank you very much." Thank you very much. No help. No, we don't need anything attached to it. But yes, we'll have the money. Thank you very much.
I'm really sorry for getting overexcited.
Sorry, Jerry, go on.
No, I'm really sorry to be sort of overexcited about it.
No, it's lovely to hear it. It's so nice to get that. We've also got Shelley, who just wondering if you have thoughts of making the centre database available online. We have thought absolutely about that.
Very much so.
Yeah, there will be some of it probably will be limited, and we'll encourage people to come and see it in person. But there will definitely be stuff that will be
certainly for the academic. For academic reasons as well. But we're embryonic. Let's put it this way at the moment. But most definitely, that is the way forward. Certainly.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. Okay.
Can I just do a little plug for this evening?
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. Yes, we've got the session this evening. Of course.
Carry on. Home tea.
Exactly.
7 o'clock this evening. That's UK time. There'll be, for those that can cope with, another slideshow. Who is this man, Neil? Neil and his books. And it will be a presentation on the 20 books within an hour and some of the content within that. Tomorrow evening, 7 o'clock, Who is this man, Neil? Part 2, another movie. The inspiration, who was it that inspired Neil? And again, I'm not holding myself up as a great academic here, just somebody who's interested in this man and this work because I love this place so much. And an opportunity just to hear something of the man in his own words. 7 o'clock tonight, 7 o'clock tomorrow, UK time. Who is this man, Neil? The books tonight, the inspiration tomorrow.
Amazing. So if anybody here wants to be in touch with us, interested, Derry, obviously we will be in touch with you to have conversations with you, whether you like it or not, Derry. That's compulsory, I'm afraid. But anybody else, if there's anything you feel that you want to share, if there's anything about the A.S.Neill Summerhill CIC, possibly building network, building bridges. If you're interested in the lovely course that we're offering, the online course we're offering in September, please do get in touch with us in any shape and form. Good. Okay, so I think that's about it.
Cup of tea.
Please forgive me if oh no, don't you worry, Derry. We love your enthusiasm. That's important. We need it though. The thing is that, Derry, I'll just quickly mention this. We've had a year a few years where we've been very internalized because of the COVID, and actually, and it's a weird way of saying it, but the truth of the matter is, it's hard to say we lost enthusiasm a bit. It wasn't losing enthusiasm. It was just that we had to put our energies internally. And exactly as Annie said, we released the crowdfunding thing just before the pandemic. We're all excited to start putting lots of energy into it, and the centenary website as well. And then the pandemic came, and we all just closed our hatches and just looked inside and focused on the inside. So actually, it's lovely to have your enthusiasm, because I can feel myself already going, oh yeah, exactly, here we go. And it's really lovely. So lots of love to you, always lots of love to you, Derry. And I know we'll see you again soon, and we need a hug soon is what we need. And everybody else, thank you all again so much for coming. And we'll see you all in another session soon.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Right. Where are we now? Stop recording is the first thing.
You need to stop.